Rainbow Reunion, a My Little Pony fanfiction. It was the first day of spring. As Rainbow Dash prepared to do a chore she hated doing every spring cleaning. She had tried to procrastinate as much as she could. But seeing Twilight, Pinkie, Applejack, Rarity, and Fluttershy were doing it, she knew she'd get nagged at by Twilight for not doing her spring cleaning. Seeing Twilight could fly now, and was even a princess. Rainbow wasn't the most tidy pony around, but her entire home was a mess, and looked as if a tornado had struck her entire home. Rainbow decided to start in her bedroom, where tons of clutter covered the bedroom floor, making it hard to navigate to her bed. Luckily for Rainbow, she was the best flyer in Ponyville, so she could just fly over all the clutter, which she did. Where to start, she said to herself. Rainbow picked up bits of the clutter and shoved it underneath the bed, immediately sparking an idea in her head. She flew at top speed and gathered all the clutter into one pile, then shoved it underneath her bed along with the rest of the clutter. Piece of cake! Now on to... Rainbow was interrupted as her bed went airborne into the air, causing all the clutter to go flying everywhere around the room. She was buried underneath a mountain of clutter before she could even fly out of the room. She managed to get herself out of the clutter, noticing something on the tip of her nose. What the? She said to herself, grabbing the object off the tip of her nose. The object was an old picture, framed in a wooden picture frame. The glass protecting the picture was covered with too much dust, so she blew it off to get a good look at the picture. Once the dust was clear, Rainbow noticed the picture was an old family photo of her next to her parents when she was still a filly with a blank flank. Rainbow also noticed that there was writing on the bottom right corner of the picture, which nearly brought her to tears. Always remember to fly straight, our little Rainbow. Mom and Dad. Rainbow's eyes started to fill with tears, remembering the day that the photo was taken. Flashback number 1. Why do I have to do this? Exclaimed Rainbow, being dragged by her mother to a nearby photography studio. Young lady, we have no family photos, so we figured it was time that we get some taken, replied Rainbow Shine. You know how much I hate having my picture taken, Mom. I don't care, Rainbow. Just because your Cloudsdale Elementary School photo was a little embarrassing doesn't mean that this one has to be. But what if they are there too? Who? asked Rainbow Shine. Those two fillies that make fun of you just because you have a hard time flying? Rainbow got a depressed look on her face, which her mother noticed. Tell you what, if you agree to participate in this photo shoot, we'll take you to see the Wonderbolt Air Show next week. Sound fair? Persuaded Rainbow Shine. You mean it? Exclaimed Rainbow Dash with excitement. Yes, but only if you participate, Rainbow, replied Rainbow Shine. Yes! Agreed Rainbow Dash. Alright then, and if we see those boys, we'll give them the old Rainbow punishment. That'll teach them not to mess with a Pegasus as special as you, Rainbow. Rainbow looked at her mother full of joy. I feel better now, said Rainbow Dash. Thanks, Mom. You're welcome, dear, replied Rainbow Shine. Now, I'll race you to the studio. You're on! Exclaimed Rainbow as she raced her mother to the studio. End of flashback. Rainbow came out of her flashback, wiping tears from her eyes. Those were the days, she said to herself. When was the last time I actually talked to my parents? Rainbow thought deeply about the question, trying to think of the last time she saw or talked to her parents. However, she couldn't think of any time recently that she had even associated with her mother or father. That's when she realized she hadn't spoken to her mother and father since the day she left Cloudsdale. Oh my gosh! I haven't talked to my parents since the day I left them! She exclaimed. Rainbow started to feel guilty and immediately thought of a solution. Calm down, Rainbow, she said to herself. Easy fix. All I need to do is schedule something like a reunion. And I know just the right pony who can help me with that. Pinkie Pie! Rainbow turned to dash out of the room, but that's when she realized that she still had her spring cleaning to do. That is, after I've finished my spring cleaning, she said, returning to her chore. After 2 long hours of spring cleaning, Rainbow proceeded to organizing a reunion with her mother and father. She flew at top speed out of her cloud dominium into Ponyville, where every pony was as busy as a bee. She decided to keep flying to avoid getting in any pony's way, even though the sky was busy too, but nowhere near as busy as the ground. It seemed as if she was in Manhattan again, where the streets are always busy. This was the busiest Rainbow had seen Ponyville in all her years of living there, excluding winter wrap-up, when every pony is busy preparing for Cloudsdale to produce winter clouds. It was also the toughest time for Rainbow, due to Tank needing to hibernate, but she had learned not to stress over it as much. As Rainbow flew over all the commotion, while avoiding any dangers in the sky, she spotted Sugar Cube Corner. Rainbow wasted no time and flew down onto the steps of Sugar Cube Corner and entered the building where Mr. and Mrs. Cake were rearranging the shop around. Mrs. Cake caught sight of Rainbow and approached her. "How can I help you, dear?" asked Mrs. Cake. "I don't mean to be a bother," said Rainbow Dash. "Where's Pinkie Pie?" "She's upstairs, dear. She's watching the kids, while we get things fixed down here." "I'll be quick." Mrs. Cake smiled, then returned to helping Mr. Cake with rearranging things. Rainbow flew up the stairs, where she found Pinkie playing with Mr. and Mrs. Cake's children. "Peekaboo!" exclaimed Pinkie Pie, causing the kids to giggle. "I see you!" Rainbow walked over to Pinkie. "Hey, Pinkie," said Rainbow Dash. Pinkie turned her head to Rainbow Dash. "Oh, hi, Rainbow," replied Pinkie. "I need your party skills for something." Pinkie looked at Rainbow funny. "What are you planning, Dashy?" she asked. "This is probably going to sound silly, but I want to plan a reunion, because I haven't visited my parents ever since I left them in Cloudsdale. I feel guilty," confessed Rainbow Dash. "So, you miss your parents?" asked Pinkie. "Of course I miss them, but for me to never have the courtesy to visit them, that's just unacceptable." Pinkie thought for a second, then returned to assisting Rainbow. "I've got an idea," said Pinkie. "Why don't you just go visit them?" Rainbow thought about Pinkie's suggestion. "I'm not sure if that's the best way to reunite with the ponies that raised me into who I am. It seems lame." "I'm sure your parents wouldn't have it any other way, Rainbow." "You really think so?" "Yeah, because your parents are not like other ponies expecting any large expectations. They'll take whatever you can manage, because they are your parents," concluded Pinkie. Rainbow thought about Pinkie's words, and came to the conclusion that Pinkie had a good point. They are her parents, and therefore should be thankful for whatever she can give them, even if it's only an unexpected reunion. "I suppose it's worth a try," said Rainbow. "What's the worst that can happen?" Rainbow turned to leave, but was stopped by Pinkie. "Hold on a sec," said Pinkie, as she rushed down the stairs, but appeared back in front of Rainbow in mere seconds, holding a box. "A cake for the visit, because every pony loves cake." "Thanks, Pinkie," said Rainbow. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got to get to Cloudsdale." Rainbow rushed down the stairs, out of Sugar Cube Corner in full pursuit of Cloudsdale. Along the flight to Cloudsdale, Rainbow thought of how she should greet her mother and father, even though her parents were not anything like what you'd expect them to be. Both her mother and father were much like herself, confident, brave, athletic, and very talented at flying. As she pondered over her options, she remembered what Pinkie had said, and realized that she didn't need to act anything not like herself, but just to be herself. She wanted her parents to remember their daughter as who she was and still is. Not to mention she was the pony that represented the element of loyalty, which was a huge pro in her situation. Rainbow noticed that she was getting closer to Cloudsdale, and immediately started to get cold hooves. She took a deep breath, just trying to think of the positive things that could come out of her visit. Well, guess it's all or nothing now, so here we go, Rainbow, she said to herself, starting to speed up. As she got closer to Cloudsdale, she started to feel lightheaded and was even sweating a bit. Come on, Rainbow, she exclaimed to herself. Just keep a clear mind, and... Rainbow stopped, feeling helpless. I can't do this, she yelled, as she turned from Cloudsdale and flew recklessly back to Ponyville, blinded by her own tears. She couldn't see a thing, as she dashed through, feeling helpless. As she flew, she overheard a voice in the sky. Watch out! Yelled the voice, but it was too late, as Rainbow smacked her head hard above Mystery Pegasus's head, causing her to black out. As Rainbow fell, the Pegasus flew after her at top speed in order to save her. Luckily, the Pegasus was just as fast as Rainbow and caught her on their back easily. Gotcha, said the Pegasus. Now, we need to get you out of... The Pegasus paused, as they caught a glimpse of Rainbow. Could it be? Said the Pegasus. Has she returned? Where did you find her? Asked the mysterious voice, as Rainbow peeked her eyes open. I was just practicing some flying techniques, and you just ran into me, replied the other voice. Rainbow opened her eyes, spying the two ponies standing next to her, and her head feeling as if it had been kicked by Big Macintosh. Where am I? Asked Rainbow, still a little delusional. One of the ponies looked at her and rubbed her hood through Rainbow's mane. You're safe, dear, said the pony. You'll always be safe with us, our little Rainbow. Rainbow's mind suddenly spiked, realizing that she had only been called that by two ponies, and that was her mother and father. Mom? Dad? She asked. The two ponies came into the light, and she immediately recognized them as her mother and father, Rainbow Shine and Rainbow Blaze. She was happy and sad at the same time, expressing a smile with tears forming in her eye sockets. Rainbow Shine saw the tears and wiped them away from her daughter's eyes. What's wrong, dear? Asked Rainbow Shine. I'm not sure, replied Rainbow. I just thought that you guys would hate me for not visiting you as often as I should. Rainbow started to cry, letting out all the tears she had held in ever since she discovered the family photo. Why in Equestria would you think that, Rainbow? Asked Rainbow Blaze. Because I'm not a loyal daughter for not visiting the ponies that raised me into who I am, and I'm supposed to represent the element of loyalty. Rainbow continued to shed tears as her mother and father comforted her by hugging their daughter. We would never hate you, dear, said Rainbow Shine. We could never hate you. You have your own responsibilities in Ponyville, and we understand completely, Rainbow, added Rainbow Blaze. You do? Said Rainbow, wiping away tears. Yes, said Rainbow Shine. We've watched you grow into a great and loyal Pegasus, even when you were unaware of it. Rainbow was shocked, realizing that her parents had been with her all along, watching her. We were there when you performed your Sonic Rainbow, when you chose to fly with your friends over the Wonderbolts in qualifying for the Equestria Games, even when you defeated T-Rick with the help of your friends, confirmed Rainbow Blaze. The point is, we've been with you all along, and we are very proud of what you've become, said Rainbow Shine. You are our little Rainbow, and no matter what happens, we will always love you, dear. Rainbow hugged her mother and father tight, knowing that Pinky was right, and she stressed over nothing. Now, it'd probably be best if you get some rest, dear, said Rainbow Shine. You hate your father pretty hard. Yeah, replied Rainbow. Sorry, Dad. Don't worry about it, Rainbow, replied Rainbow Blaze. Rainbow giggled as her parents left the bedroom, shutting the door behind them. Rainbow took her mother's advice and shut her eyes into another flashback, the day she flew for the first time. Flashback number 2. It was a sunny day, as Rainbow flexed her wings, full of confidence. She knew that that day was going to be the day that she flew for the first time, even though she had attempted multiple times, and all attempts ended the same way: failure. She wiped the sweat from her forehead, awaiting her father's directions. "Whenever you're ready, I'm ready," spoke Rainbow. "Rainbow, are you sure you want to push yourself any further?" asked Rainbow Blaze. "You might hurt yourself if you try too hard." "I'm going to do it today, Dad. I just know I am." Rainbow Blaze didn't bother to convince his daughter any further, and proceeded to restarting the procedure. "Remember, wings up, give yourself a little nudge off the cloud, and flap at an even pace," instructed Rainbow Blaze. "Got it," agreed Rainbow. "Alright, 3, 2, 1, fly!" Rainbow took a deep breath, raised her wings while giving herself a little nudge off the ground, and flapped as fast as she could, only to collapse to the ground again. Rainbow wanted to cry, but managed to keep the tears in. "Why can't I do it?" exclaimed Rainbow. "I'll never fly with the Wonderbolts if I can't fly. Those fillies are right. I'm just a failure." Rainbow Blaze walked over to his daughter, hoping to comfort her. "Rainbow, you will fly someday," convinced Rainbow Blaze. "Today is just not that day. It took me until I was past my failures to fly for the first time." "Really?" said Rainbow. "I was harassed like you, but I never let harassment stop me from pursuing my dream of flying. It took me years, but eventually I flew thanks to your mother's motivation. She was my coach, and she wasn't the nice and easy coach, but the tough as nails coach. Her instructions were ruthless, but they eventually got me to where I am now." "Wow! Mom was your coach?" asked Rainbow. Rainbow Blaze nodded his head. "Well, now that you've sort of convinced me, I think it's time to take a break," concluded Rainbow. "Very well," replied Rainbow Blaze. "It is lunchtime anyways." "I feel confident as ever, Dad," said Rainbow, doing small attempts at flying. "Why is that?" "I don't know," she said as she attempted to fly one last time. Expecting to hit the ground, she was surprised, as she noticed she was airborne. "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh!" she exclaimed. Rainbow Blaze turned, only to see his daughter flying successfully for the first time. His jaw dropped, as she slowly made her way toward the house, airborne. "You did it, Rainbow!" exclaimed Rainbow Blaze. "Faster!" Rainbow did as her father instructed and flew faster, leaving a small rainbow streak behind her. She stayed in an area where she could land on a solid cloud and didn't go too high, so she couldn't obtain any sort of injury. She loved the feeling of flying and was thrilled at the sight of her father cheering her on. The moment was perfect until she collapsed to the ground, but she wasn't sad or anything, but more proud than ever before. "You okay, Rainbow?" asked Rainbow Blaze. "Better than okay, Dad," replied Rainbow. "I'm overwhelmed." She looked at her blink, hoping to see her cue mark, but there was nothing there. It depressed her a little, but she was as bold as ever, and one day she'd get her cue mark. But that day was not the day for that accomplishment. Back in Ponyville, Twilight sat at a table, just outside of Sugar Cube Corner, attempting a new spell. Pinkie walked out of Sugar Cube Corner, noticing Twilight focused on her new spell. "Hey, Twilight," said Pinkie. "What sort of crazy spell are you up to now?" "It's a new spell Princess Celestia wants her to learn," said Spike. "Maybe a cupcake will help," said Pinkie, as she sat a cupcake on the table. "Thanks, Pinkie," complimented Twilight. "Don't mention it," replied Pinkie. Twilight decided to take Pinkie's advice and turned her focus away from the spell. She chomped on the cupcake, starting to feel a bit of confidence in her little body. Has any pony noticed that the sky looks a bit strange?" asked Spike. "Now that you've mentioned it, it does seem more gloomy," said Twilight. "Where's Rainbow? She's supposed to clear the clouds." "Oh, she's visiting her parents in Cloudsdale," confirmed Pinkie. Twilight looked at Pinkie funny. Why the sudden visit to Cloudsdale? She was feeling all gloomy about not ever visiting them, and the guilt was eating her alive, so she asked me for party advice, but I told her just to surprise them with a visit, replied Pinky, taking a deep breath inward. I suppose the weather can wait, seeing this is an acceptable situation, said Twilight. The conversation was interrupted by a loud burp from Spike, meaning he had a message from Princess Celestia. I wonder what the princess wants now, wondered Spike as Twilight unrolled the scroll with her magic. Twilight read the message to herself, only to become shocked. Well, what does it say? asked Spike. We need Rainbow, exclaimed Twilight. The worst storm in Equestria history is heading straight for Ponyville. Rainbow stretched her limbs as she made her way out of the bed provided by her parents, and walked out of the bedroom into the kitchen where her mother and father sat talking to each other. The sound of Rainbow's hooves hitting the floor as she walked caught the attention of her mother and father. Looks like some pony is feeling better, said Rainbow Blaze. Looks like your tolerance for pain hasn't changed. What can I say? Said Rainbow Dash. I'm one tough pony. Rainbow Blaze giggled. It's nice to see my Dashie again. Don't be a stranger, dear, said Rainbow Shine. Have a seat. Rainbow Dash did as her mother instructed and sat down on one of the open seats. After sitting down, Rainbow pulled the chair in toward the table. So, how have things been in Cloudsdale? Asked Rainbow Dash. Well, the weather has been great, but nothing special has happened lately, except for you deciding to visit us, replied Rainbow Shine. How about you, Dad? Asked Rainbow Dash. I've been practicing some new flying techniques. After seeing how much you had progressed at the Cloudsdale flying competition, I figured I needed to catch up on flying myself, because my own daughter had even surpassed her mentor, said Rainbow Blaze. It's true, said Rainbow Dash. However, if it weren't for you, I would have never been able to get to the level I am at in flying. As of now, I'm helping a young filly learn to fly, seeing she looks up to me as a role model, even a sister. Well, it's good that you're helping others, just as your father helped you, complimented Rainbow Shine. Her name is Scootaloo, and she's part of a small group called the Cutie Mark Crusaders, because all three of them are in search of their cutie marks. Sounds like you when you were still a filly, said Rainbow Blaze. I can't argue with you there, replied Rainbow Dash. I was doing some reckless things, just to find out what I was meant to do for the rest of my life. You eventually found it, just like every pony does, said Rainbow Shine. I did, and it was at the flying camp that I enlisted into, said Rainbow Dash. It was in a race to defend a friend of mine's honor, when I performed my first sonic rainbow. Rainbow stopped talking for a second, realizing that her parents had never seen her get her cutie mark, or seen her first sonic rainbow. Oh, that's right. You guys never saw the first sonic rainbow, said Rainbow Dash. Rainbow Shine and Rainbow Blaze looked at each other funny. Actually, Rainbow, we did see the first sonic rainbow, confessed Rainbow Blaze. What do you mean? Asked Rainbow Dash. Your mother and I were there that day, but you were completely unaware. Why didn't you come visit me? Asked Rainbow Dash. Do you know how much I actually missed you? Of course we did, but please let us explain why, convinced Rainbow Shine. What could be more important than your daughter? Snapped Rainbow Dash. Your father and I were on our way to visit you when we were called away by a fellow Cloudsdale pony because a severe storm was heading straight for Ponyville. And this storm wasn't created by Cloudsdale Factory or any Pegasi, confessed Rainbow Shine. We were barely able to fend it off, even with the help of Cloudsdale. Rainbow thought for a second about her parents' words, wondering if they were telling the truth, and started to get angry and sad at the same time. We're sorry, Rainbow, said Rainbow Shine. We truly are. Rainbow was too angry and sad to even forgive her mother and father. I need to be alone right now, said Rainbow, dashing out of the house. Rainbow, wait, pleaded Rainbow Shine, but it was too late, because Rainbow was already too far for her to hear her mother's plea. Just give her some time, said Rainbow Blaze. She has every right to be angry right now. Rainbow Dash flew through the clouds, wiping tears from her eyes, as she made her way back to Ponyville. As she flew, she wondered if she was overreacting, but at the same time, she didn't care, and just continued flying. She was sad because her mother and father put a storm before their own daughter, which was understandable, but wrong at the same time, in Rainbow's opinion. The day she got her cutie mark was a day that she wished her mother and father could have at least had the courtesy to visit and congratulate her. Because getting your cutie mark is something that only happens once in every pony's life, and her own parents bothered to spectate but not show up and congratulate her because of a storm. The more she thought of it, the more angry she became, so she focused on getting back to Ponyville. As Rainbow flew, she swore she could hear a familiar voice, so she stopped and listened closely. "Rainbow!" yelled the voice, which Rainbow immediately recognized. "Twilight?" responded Rainbow, noticing a pony becoming more visible through the clouds. "Rainbow, thank goodness I found you," said Twilight, landing on a large puffy cloud. "You okay, Twilight?" asked Rainbow. "You don't look so good." "I'm just not used to flying yet, therefore it exhausts me still," replied Twilight. "Oh, right," said Rainbow. "What about you?" asked Twilight. "I thought you were visiting your parents." "Let's just say things didn't turn out so good," said Rainbow. "What happened?" "Well, the day I got my cutie mark, my parents decided to visit only to spectate and fly off to tame some kind of storm," confessed Rainbow. Twilight suddenly remembered why she was here in the first place, after Rainbow mentioned a storm. "Speaking of storms, Ponyville needs you, Rainbow, because a severe storm is heading straight for Ponyville." "How severe?" asked Rainbow. "The worst storm in Equestria history, not forged by any Pegasi or Cloudsdale," shrieked Twilight. Suddenly Rainbow's mother's words echoed in Rainbow's head, and she wondered if it could be the same storm. "You okay, Rainbow?" asked Twilight. "Huh? Yeah, I'm fine," muttered Rainbow. "I'm going to need all the Pegasi in Ponyville, because I have a feeling we're going to need all the wing power we can manage to fend the storm off. I'll also need you to use some magic so we can tame this storm. Think you can handle that, Twilight?" "I can handle that, and I think the spell I was working on earlier just might be the key to putting the storm to rest," assured Twilight. "Let's go then! There's no time to waste!" commanded Rainbow. Back in Ponyville, Rainbow rounded up every Pegasi available, while Twilight prepared herself for the spell she would have to cast. None of the Pegasi were hesitant to agree in helping fend off the storm, already knowing that a storm was coming, thanks to Twilight and some eavesdropping ponies. All the Pegasi stretched their wings, knowing that this was going to take every bit of their strength to beat, while Rainbow did some exercises as well. Spike assisted Twilight, giving her courage to cast the spell, and Twilight knew she had to. Otherwise, the storm would just return another day. In the end, there was a total of 20 Pegasi participating in producing enough wing power to fend off the storm. And lastly, Twilight stood on a high vantage point so she could land the final blow. Rainbow hoped that she had enough wing power, because if she didn't, the storm would overpower them, and Ponyville would be hit, ending only in destruction. The storm was closing in as Rainbow prepared the other Pegasi for their biggest task, standing just outside of Ponyville. "All right, every pony," said Rainbow. "When I give the command, I want all of you to flap at an even pace, and create a big enough amount of wing power so we can hold the storm back, while Twilight charges up her spell. Do not give in, otherwise Ponyville will be destroyed. Can I count on every pony not to give in?" Every pony agreed, yelling a cheer in unison. "That's what I'd like to hear," said Rainbow. "Wait for my signal, then flap those wings harder than ever before." The Pegasi agreed as the storm approached Ponyville. "Ready? Wings up! Now, flap!" commanded Rainbow Dash. The Pegasi followed Rainbow's instructions and flapped their wings at an even pace, creating a strong wind. The Pegasi's efforts seemed to be working due to the storm retracting a little bit, but it didn't take long for Rainbow to figure out that the storm was just toying with them, and threw all of its strength at the Pegasi, nearly causing the formation they formed to break down. "It's not enough, Twilight!" exclaimed Rainbow Dash. "We won't be able to hold this off for much longer, so I hope you have that spell ready." I'm sorry, but I need a couple more minutes to charge the spell to its full extent, replied Twilight from a roof on a nearby building. Not good, said Rainbow Dash. I really wish that Mom and Dad were here right now. Just as their formation was about to break, the strength of the storm decreased. Rainbow was shocked and confused at the same time, wondering what had caused the strength of the storm to decrease. That's when she heard a familiar voice from above. We're right here, Rainbow, yelled Rainbow Shine and Rainbow Blaze as they continued flapping their wings, along with all of the Cloudsdale ponies. Rainbow was relieved and continued flapping their wings. You gotta be kidding me! You got all the Cloudsdale ponies involved? Asked Rainbow Dash. Working at the Cloudsdale Weather Factory goes a long way, dear, said Rainbow Shine. You earn lots of friends, just as you have here in Ponyville. Rainbow started to shed tears, now realizing just how much her mother and father loved her, and she now understood the reason her parents had to leave, rather than not visiting her at flight camp, which was acceptable enough. Come on, every pony, let's finish this, commanded Rainbow Dash. All the Pegasi continued flapping their wings, pushing the storm back far enough to where Twilight could get a clear shot. Twilight's horn glowed a hue of pink as she prepared to fire the spell. Please let this work, she said as she fired a beam of magic into the storm clouds, followed by a loud explosion. The explosion impacted the storm a little, but it wasn't enough to dissipate it. Twilight, what happened? Yelled Rainbow Dash. I'm not sure. The spell just wasn't enough, exclaimed Twilight. Rainbow thought for a moment. I know what is, though, said Rainbow, to the sky, getting a boost from the gust that all the Pegasi had managed to make. Rainbow, what are you doing? Asked Twilight. Rainbow dashed downward from the sky, gaining amounts of speed. A sonic rainboom! Replied Rainbow as she performed a sonic rainboom in the center of the storm, causing the clouds to dissipate from the force of the sonic rainbow. As a finishing touch, Rainbow Dash formed a rainbow in place of the storm. I can't believe that worked, said Twilight. She had to hit the sonic rainboom in a perfect spot at just the right timing. I'm pretty sure she knew that, Twilight, said Spike. Rainbow's not an idiot. You're right, Spike, concluded Twilight as she stared at Rainbow Dash's rainbow that she had formed from her sonic rainbow. All the Pegasi applauded as Rainbow Dash landed on the ground with a large smile on her face. How's that for a climax? Said Rainbow. It was awesome! Exclaimed Rainbow Shine as she made her way through the crowd of Pegasi. Wow, that's something I never expected you to say, Mom, said Rainbow Dash. Your mother is full of all sorts of surprises, Rainbow, assured Rainbow Blaze. I can see that, replied Rainbow. I'd also like to apologize for how I reacted to you guys. Now that I know just how severe the storm was, I can find it acceptable. I also need to let go of the past and start focusing on the future, because I've realized that even in the darkest times, you guys would bring all of the Cloudsdale ponies to Ponyville, just to help your stubborn daughter fend off the worst storm in Equestria history. Apology accepted, dear, said Rainbow Shine. Also, if you wouldn't mind, we'd like to get a fresh start by meeting your friends. If it's not too much to have an actual reunion, then why don't I start by introducing you to my friends, because they count as family to me, suggested Rainbow Dash. That would be wonderful, replied Rainbow Shine. Rainbow Dash's journal entry. Today I learned that even in the toughest times, you can never be hated by those who care for you, no matter how you treat them. In this case, it was my parents who I had lost connection with for a great amount of time. But even after years of separation, they still loved me. Love is a powerful thing and can exist as long as a bond exists. I also blame myself for many things to do with the past, and now realize that I need to focus on the future, rather than hold on to something like the past. Tonight, I plan on starting off fresh with my mom and dad, thanks to Pinky and her party skills. Not to mention, I plan on visiting more frequently, seeing I represent loyalty. And just like I remain loyal to my friends here in Ponyville, I must also remain loyal to the ponies that raised me into who I am, even if they do live farther away. Rainbow set down the pencil and shut the journal, as Pinkie yelled from afar. "Come on, Rainbow!" exclaimed Pinkie. "You don't want to be late for your own reunion." "Right," said Rainbow Dash. "I'm coming." Rainbow had one last thing to do before leaving. She grabbed a new photo taken by Photo Finish and placed it on the table next to the journal, admiring the new beginning of a new start for the Rainbow family.